Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome back to ISLAM podcast. Today, we got Habibi and Maju joining us once again. Assalamu alaikum, boys.
Walaikum salam,
Walaikum
Arif.
salam.
Mr. Habibi is always up to join at last minute, which we always love having him here.
Last minute planned, not planned. I'm always here.
Yeah, you just need your shisha and you're good. Oh, there it is. There it is. What's going on with you, Maju? How are things?
A little bit sore after the spanking I got last week, but I'll manage.
Didn't you guys have a week off?
Oh, our this upcoming week is a week
Yeah, we'll
off.
be having a week off.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that was a regular season. That's true. See, in for our team, it felt like a playoff game. So, team was like, "Wait, you guys were off," but no, you're right. It was the last game of the season.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the teams that needed to step up made it interesting for an interesting night for sure. I think all the games that were played, where it actually had impact on one of the teams, it had a little
Yep,
little sense of spice in it for sure.
they did because the top teams were fighting for the bye, and the bottom teams were fighting just to get into the playoffs. So
Yeah,
every team actually had some implication. So,
yeah, yeah, and it showed.
well, yeah. I mean, it felt like a playoff night. So we're today we're just going to go through each one of the teams and just do a quick recap of just how their season went and what they have to do to do well in the playoffs. So nothing too complex today. So let's get started. I don't see a lot of people yet, but that's probably because we started exactly on time.
They thought we were going to show up late.
There's
Ah,
literally one person watching right now. It's probably Maju. I think it's Mobeen. Who's out there?
It's Islam and me because I'm also in the chat.
Oh, there you go. So it's you. We're just talking amongst ourselves.
I'll figure it out.
There's people joining, so if you build it, they will come. So, all right, let's get on with this, and people can always rewind and follow it later. So, as always, this episode is sponsored by Stone Valley Countertops. If you want to buy a countertop, go to Stone Valley.
Because stone is stone at Stone Valley Countertops.
I thought you were going to do a jingle or something.
That's all they got.
Well, speaking of all they got, Iman did give all they had, and unfortunately, it wasn't enough. I think what they tied their last game and they had to win it to get in. They got enough points that they had to fight Subber for that last spot in the playoffs, and it came down to a second or third tiebreaker, right? And they lost on that.
Yeah, this was the game between Iman and TAQWA, correct?
Yes. No,
Yeah.
TAQWA was Subber. This was Iman
Oh,
and Haya. No, it
who
wasn't
did
Haya.
they play? No, it wasn't Haya.
Well, I could check. We're forgetting this. It was like less than a week ago.
Yeah,
Ikhlas.
Ikhlas. Okay.
Yeah, Iman and Ikhlas, and they ended in a 4-4 tie. And that tie, I mean, had they won, they would have probably gone into the playoffs. But
Yeah, two
that
teams with
tie,
different stories for sure. Yeah.
yeah, that tie forced them to get 8 points, which meant that they had to sort of here. You know what? Instead of me talking, let's just show. Yeah, so Iman had 8 points, so they had the exact same wins, losses, ties, and points as Subber, right? These two guys.
Yeah.
However, the tiebreaker after that is not goals for; it's actually goals against.
Yep.
So there's a 3 goals against difference, and on that night they had 4 goals scored against, and Subber only had 2. So the margin just became even shorter that way. So it's
Yeah.
literally, how you look back at the season and you're like, oh man, just a couple of inches, that ball, would have gone in. That extra play, the extra point, it matters now, or mattered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Those.
Huzaifa, don't go blaming me for allowing too many goals against Haya. That's why you didn't get it in. It was just because you didn't score, Huzaifa Majra.
Yeah, but that was pretty much the tale of the whole night. I mean, I was
Yeah.
just what standing around, just kind of talking to the guys and stuff like that. There was a lot of mathematical wizards, because every time a goal scored, it was like, oh, this happens, this can happen, this can happen. Then another goal would happen. It was like, oh my god, if this can happen, this can happen. It was just kind of like really mind-boggling, because the night really was kind of about that. And I know in
Yeah,
the game for sure, it was like, okay, if this happens, this can happen. At the end of the night, I was just like, whatever happens at the night, just let me know what happens, and we'll kind of go from there. But
it was in constant flux
yeah,
the whole evening.
yeah, it was interesting, but it's good. I mean, it's good. It's good for the league, and it's good to get
Yeah,
guys engaged and stuff like that. And it just it was good to it was good to see that every game mattered right to the last minute. So
yeah, yeah. Like even when we played the last game and or one of the last games, and when we finished, guys came over to us and said, "Hey, I think you made the playoffs." I'm like, I don't know. I don't think we did, but sure, I'll take your word for it. So even after we got confirmation, guys in our chat room, they're like, did we make it or not? So tough break for Iman. But hey, listen, just let's go over real quick about Iman. I think they started off pretty slowly. In the middle, they did a lot of trades. They got back on track, and I think at the end they tried their best, but they were winless in their last 2 weeks, right? And that kind of cost them.
yeah, and you're right about the trades that they made in the middle, because they did have an identity at the very beginning. They were recognized as that young, fast, top run and gun type of team, and then
Hmm.
probably realized like midway through the season is that they might have needed to make a few adjustments, a few changes, but they
Yeah,
definitely had an identity. They knew what the team was about. They drafted the team to be built that way, and it worked. It worked, pretty much for the first couple of, well, not for the first couple of games, because they sort of had to identify with that identity in the
yeah,
very beginning. But
yeah,
once they found out who they were, it worked, and they were a very young, fast, quick team. But I guess it's one of those things where it just didn't gel at the right time.
yeah, yeah. So, well, thanks for playing, guys. Better luck next year.
This team surprised me because they
Yeah.
had
Why?
they had all the pieces from the very beginning. I mean,
Mm,
on paper, these guys have a core group of people that are kind of accustomed to playing with each other in other leagues, like I said before, and they're not players who are not new to hockey. They've been playing hockey pretty much since they were younger. Just never really found that identity, to be honest with you, and it just didn't really go beyond their top five.
yeah.
So that's what I saw from this team, but definitely surprised that they did not make it, because looking at them on paper, they're definitely a team that should have been top six for sure.
They gave us a tough time because we had to play these guys in the last game, and we were both fighting for that spot. And they had a lot of great shots, great chances, all of them on net. We barely, by the skin of our teeth, we got past these guys. I mean, they're young guys, right? Imagine these guys staying together like that. They're going to be such a powerhouse of a team in the
Yeah,
future.
yeah.
But obviously, as you get better, people are going to get picked on different teams. But mashallah, like the future looks good. Future looks bright. There's a lot of really good, talented players.
Yep, and a lot of them were on that team for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So those were
Yeah.
the two teams that didn't make it. So now we go from the bottom. Start from the bottom now on the top here. So Maju, your team, buddy, what happened? Yeah, like you guys look like Superman, the part one, I think, where he this is like from the 70s movies, but when he goes into that crystal chamber, loses all his power, he comes out and Superman is just a regular person. That's what Yakin looked like. They
Okay.
lost all their superpowers.
First of all, RF, no one even knows what the heck you're talking about. 70s? I don't think
I
half of
do.
our. Okay, fair enough.
You're outgunned.
Habibi, you're
You're
also.
outgunned, buddy.
Our a majority of our population wasn't even born in the 70s yet. But
Yeah, but it's
um,
called TV. You can still watch it. You weren't born in during Star Wars and you still watched it. So what's your point?
I was in the 80s, so Star Wars was out in the 80s, sir. Anyways, but
Not Star
yeah,
Wars one.
we missed our GMs, right? Really, that's what
Yeah,
drives our team, and clearly it's shown on paper. That's the heart and soul of our team.
yeah,
Now, that being said, our second and third line, they showed up, right? A lot of our guys were sick. They were battling a flu, a cold, injuries. but everyone still came out hard. They played hard. Yes, the score doesn't reflect that. It was, I think it was 6-1 was the final. So the score doesn't reflect it by any means, but I have to give it up to my team. Just they played amazing in front of me. If I could have some of the shots back too, I would. But for Yakin to be successful moving forward, they have to be more than a one-line team. That's just all it comes down to it, right? Their top five guys are their scoring leaders. Sorry, top four guys are their scoring leaders, and they need to be able to spread that wealth out one way or
Yeah.
another. I don't know if rejigging the lines is the solution, because that could just cause other issues. But the Yakin core, the GMs, they're just coming off of a win from Indo Cup,
Mhm.
and they're hyped to kind of get back in the roll of the things and continue that on. But that being said, when Yakin played RIDHA was able to really keep it a close game. It was a 1-0 game for the entirety of it. Like, it was just, that's what it came down to.
And
Um,
what, this comes back to the whole thing about, and we see this in Iceland every year. Not only is it important that players show up, but it's especially important that your GMs show up and they perform. And that's what Yakin has been doing. The reason why they have so much success, they're the only team where their GMs, I don't think, have missed any games except this one, right? You
yeah,
have other teams where, I guess I can only speak for my own team, but we've had GMs missing. We've had our round one guys missing, goalies missing. The key people are missing. Obviously, we're not going to be successful.
yeah,
But if I might add too, like it's not just a one line team. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's also about the development, like in terms
Yeah.
of like how you progress throughout from game one all the way to game 10 or game 12 for that matter, and just to really find your identity as a player, and to really know your role and where you fit on that team. So that last game, if you want to refer to that, it really, I mean, I'm looking at Abdullah's comment.
Hmm.
Maybe that is a weakness that Yakin has. I don't know, but at the end of the day, it was an opportunity for your other lines to show up, and I'm sure they have. But it's just probably one of those things where Maju, if you say if your team needs to be successful later on, it's the top line has to step up. I might also add that the other lines also have to step up as well.
Yeah.
yeah.
I will say one thing though, like I think it's also a little bit unfair to call like Yakin a one-line team, because that takes away from some of the guys on the
And that's
team,
exactly what I'm saying.
right? Because they have some good guys on the other
Of
lines,
course they do. Absolutely.
but what happens is when you have those guys having to play against the top guys
Other
of other
top lines,
teams,
yeah.
it's not that you're setting them up for failure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no,
yeah,
most definitely. Our second line is, we're still trying to find second and third lines. They have clicked when from here and there, but again, like, majority of the
yeah,
brunt of the team, like the brunt of the weight has been carried by our top line. I think,
yeah.
like any NHL, any team, for them to succeed moving forward, you need more than just a one line
Hmm.
performance. So I'm hoping that EBP or Ahmed Mobeen or someone just finds that playoff gear, becomes
Yeah.
that playoff performer, and just Steven Reinprecht or whoever, like, just starts pocketing them in the right time.
Yeah,
So
and let's not forget, Yakin, you guys had to face a very, very hungry Haya team, a
most
Haya team
definitely,
who was
yeah,
fighting for their playoff lives, right? So you
yeah,
had a team missing
No
GMs,
mercy. Yeah.
right? And you had on the other side a team that was going to go all out. So obviously it was going to be a lopsided score. But when your GMs are back, you guys are still the favorites here. So going into the playoffs, yeah, that's going to be a big one. And congratulations to them for winning the Indo Cup. And I think this week, since you guys get a bye, it's probably a good way for them to rest if they're not playing any other games.
knowing them, they probably are. They're probably playing a game somewhere else.
They're probably playing right now as we speak.
All right. So second, did RIDHA finish second? Yeah, RIDHA finished
Yep.
Yep.
second.
They got the buy as well. Yeah.
They got the bye, and points they were tied with Ikhlas, but they had the extra win. So again, a tiebreaker gets them the bye. This
Yep.
team as well, they've been up and down, and looks like they're hitting their stride just before the playoffs.
Now, I do want to point out one thing is, Yusuf Ngar, credited, just played amazing last game, got 3 goals and 2 assists, so 5 points, and
Mhm.
he was our Stone Valley Countertop Player of the Week.
Yes.
for week 13. So amazing performance, and just some of the goals, even like his, I think it was his last goal where he just batted a rebound that came off the glass, just midair shot and right
Mhm.
in. So he was just on fire, could not be stopped. For a guy who doesn't do any cardio, he's just amazing shape. So RIDHA is going to try to be riding that hot streak. They really had a lot of team, like their lines were just firing on all cylinders in the last couple of games too. So they're riding that high after getting one of their players, one of their new pickups when they had to drop
Yeah.
RF, not you RF, but was it Asif?
Those
I
are
don't know.
Asif
Offload.
Hanslod, yeah. So that being said, I think the new injection of energy has really done it for them, and of course Yusuf Kapoor is in fine form.
Oh,
He's a
he's playing
machine.
amazing.
Yeah,
yeah, player of the
I-
week last
I'll
week.
I'll be very surprised if he doesn't win at least some serious consideration for the goalie of the year because he's just been phenomenal. Not taking anything
Yeah,
from
I
you,
was just
Maju,
saying,
but
Maj.
I mean
no,
Maju
no,
has
no,
the
it's
better
all good.
stats, but I mean even Maju has told me like he's super impressed by how Yusuf has been playing this year season.
No, mashallah, he's definitely
Yeah.
grown, and you could see his maturity in his game throughout the years has been definitely on the positive and upward for sure.
Yep, yep. So Rida, they also get the bye. They're gonna wait to see who they're facing. We're not going to go into the matchups quite yet. But are they missing anything? Do they have everything? Did they get everything they needed before the season ended in terms of trades and waivers and whatnot?
I
What
think
piece are they
I
missing to
I think
hold the way?
they're in a good spot. I mean, they
Yeah,
do have a well balanced team. I mean, when we talk about one line, two lines, three lines, I think they're pretty balanced on all three.
yeah.
Um, if there's anything that I would say, it's probably D. But they have Sawi in the back, and I think
Hmm.
they have um,
Amar Khawaja.
Coco, Amarkwaji and Coco, right?
Yeah. No,
No, and
Coco was with
no.
Aqua.
Oh, okay. So then they're good.
Yeah,
They're in a good spot.
yeah,
Yeah, they're in a good
Yeah.
spot. I think they're okay. I think if they continue doing what they're doing, which is just playing all their lines consistently, I
yeah,
think they should be okay.
The
yeah.
other Gujarati you're thinking of is Mohammed Kazi. He's on the back end. So
Yeah.
not Coco, but Kazi. Close enough.
Well, you know what? It's
I'm
it's
not I'm not gonna go there.
we don't often see this color jersey make it to the second round. So it'll be nice to see.
Wow, you
It only
just
took 19 years, man. It's okay. It's okay.
every episode with you guys, every episode.
Excuse me. All right. So, the team that really wanted to get the bye and they didn't because of a tiebreaker is Ikhlas. They were missing Hamdani, I think, last week, right? For an
Yes.
hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it showed. I mean, they had everyone else, or actually, they didn't. They were missing Hamdani. They were missing Chauhan. So, of
Johan,
course,
yeah,
those two guys are like
yeah,
tier one players, right? What are you
they're
gonna do?
not. They are
Yeah.
tier one players, yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, in terms of like this team, they have the right pieces.
Yeah,
They definitely have the right pieces in terms of like taking it to where they need to go. I think their only enemy is themselves, and just finding out how they mesh from within. But they've made a couple of acquisitions later on in that season, which
yeah,
just kind of helped them about a bit. I know Johan hasn't appeared in any games, but I think he'll fit very well right away. I don't think there should be any time missed in terms of like him fitting in that lineup
yeah,
right
yeah.
away.
And shout out to my boy Imran, the goalie, because since being traded to that team, he's played really well. I mean, he got a shutout, and last game was a tie, but he's looking more and more like the Imran of old.
Good.
He actually had a nice little family following that came to see his last game, so they were really cheering him on. So I think he got a lot of energy from his family cheering him on. But
Yeah.
you know what? That being said, Ikhlas has been a powerhouse. Now it kind of goes in. They almost have like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of thing, where
Hmm.
on one side they're blowing teams out 8-1, 5-1, 5-0, 4-1, and then on the other side they're losing 6-1, they're losing 5-1, they're losing 5-0. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
they've missed players, right? I'm not saying that it's not partially due to missing some key pieces here and there. But it's like, okay, what side, which class are we going to get, right? So I think for them to succeed, yes, again, they have their top line scoring, they have that doing really well, but Abdullah Patel needs to show up on the scoreboard a little bit more. You
Oh,
know, just saying right there, Abdullah, you want to call out Yakin? We can go both ways.
listen, man,
um,
we see more of Abdullah on the podcast chat than we do on the floor.
Wow. Well, but I think what we also need to recognize too is the other teams that play them. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like that double-edged mentality where, teams know when they play certain teams, they kind of elevate their games on themselves, right? So,
Yeah.
you walk into a game with a class, the personnel on that team, and it's kind of like subliminal. It's kind of like, okay, I think I need to step it up, and the whole team just kind of steps it up kind of there. So when you say Jekyll and Hyde, I think Jekyll and Hyde kind of goes on both ways. I think sometimes you'll see a Jekyll and Hyde in terms of like the teams that actually play them. You'll see a different team that plays a clause, then
yeah,
you'll
Hmm.
probably see a different team playing another team. I don't want to mention any names,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
th- I think they kind of have that reputation, if I might add, and kind of guys from within just kind of subliminally just kind of like elevate their own games, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So they're going to be playing Sabr tomorrow, inshallah. So two games, and it's going to be an uphill battle because Sabr has not won against these guys. As Abdullah is quick to point out, he has 2 goals against Sabr, so he's going to want to do more. But again, I think it comes down to two main factors: having Hamdani there, having Johan there, and playing like they're supposed to. And remember, Johan hasn't played a single game since he's been moved there,
Yeah.
and Imran stepping up the way he has been, right? Those two are huge, and they've lost Farouk, and I think Farouk is very underrated in that sense, right? Where he's a big bruiser of a defenseman, very very solid rock. So I think he was keeping them very grounded in the beginning of the season, but having lost them, they gain more firepower in Johan. But again, what's the point if the guy hasn't been able to show up? And by the way, he hasn't shown up because he was injured and he was working. So it's not that is anything else. It's legit reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, and what you're describing is what we're expecting, but we haven't seen it yet. But
Yeah,
again,
yeah, yeah,
it's one of those things where it's expected of him to do that.
yeah,
But I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, in 24 hours, we'll find that out.
yeah.
it's
So
any given Friday. We had that last week, and again we're expecting it this week. We just don't know what, and who, like,
mhm.
just what's gonna happen. And funny bounces, funny injuries that you're getting out of your chair or something, you tweak something that day. Who knows? It's gonna be interesting to see, but definitely it's gonna be like this again, another just fueled Friday night. Just can't wait for it.
And they have good secondary players, right? They have Saqib, they have Abdullah, they have Zoo, they have a lot of good, solid secondary support characters on this team. Um,
Sorry, Sakib
one
who? Is it Sakib baseball? Is that softball? Sorry.
softball.
Okay.
Well, this is a softball team. I mean, they'll play BSL and stuff, right? So
I think
maybe they're already in softball mode by now. So I hope so.
I think Halas will be fine. They just need to continue with their game. That's it.
Well, I hope they're not.
Well, I hope these guys are.
Ihsan, Habibi,
Yeah.
tell us more.
Well, I think our identity has been pretty much established. I think we know who
Hmm.
we are as a team. Everyone on the team knows what their role is. We
Yeah.
know where we fit in, and I think it's no secret that our strength is in our defense. Our defense, in my opinion, is probably the strongest defensive core that we have in the entire league. And of course, it's matched by none other than Ali in net, which is obviously a perfect goalie from based on the caliber of goalies that are there. So I think what Hassan needs to do is just really follow up on their identity, and that's really
But you're
forward. But we definitely need to step up in terms of goals because we just have
you have the second lowest goal scoring in the league. I mean,
we're aware
second
of that.
only to Sabr, who's pretty much been at the bottom of the rank, right?
Yeah.
Um,
In order for us to win, or in order for Hassan to win, not us to win.
Yeah, yeah,
I think they really need to capitalize on their forwards, and really just need to get that ball in and no shot. So you can't score if you don't shoot, right? So it's just really getting more shots on net.
yeah. I'm just looking at some of your stats here, real quick. I don't know if you can see it or not, but you guys haven't scored more than 3 goals at any point in the season. I think, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
as good as your defense and as good as Ali Khawaja is, you got to give him something to work with, right?
Yeah, and that's, I mean, if we're talking about what teams need to do to, to sustain or what their
Hmm.
identities have been throughout the season, I think the identity has been established. But I think in order for Ascent to move forward, and it really is like you just said, to
Yeah,
help the guys in the back and really help them out with scoring. That's it.
yeah. And I know you won't make excuses, Habibi. You're not that type of a guy, so I'll make
Hmm.
one for you. You guys missed your first round pick the whole season, right? I mean, that no team can go without their first round pick and still have this level of success. You guys finished 500, 5 wins, 5 losses, 1 tie. So literally split down the middle, right? To do it without your first round pick, that's actually pretty impressive.
Yeah, and that's kudos to our leadership, to the leadership of that team, and that's with Mohib, Dawood and Ali, right? So it's really
Hmm.
based. I mean, they know that the players on that team, they know where to put them, they know what to do, they know how to get them together, and it really is just playing the right players and just putting them where they can shine at the right time, right? So,
Yep.
but you're right. In order for Ascent to succeed, they just got to keep scoring. No
Now,
excuses.
that being said, I think I'm what I'm envisioning for Isan's success is use your speed, use what you have to as leverage, right? So you have a great first line um, with uh, with Muhib and then with Barak. So why not use that? And well, they shoot, they score, they run around, right? And use that kind of that explosiveness to your advantage. Now the second line, you guys have full of speed. You have sorry, you have Kawaja, Rayan Kawaja. You have uh, the Zaidi, Essen Zaidi's son, Mikhail Zaidi, and using that to even cycle around, right? I think that there's times where you have those glimpses of greatness where the guys are exploding, everything's just kind of working, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's just like, oh, are you kind of overdoing it or kind of beating yourselves up trying to do too much, right? I think
Yeah.
just getting back to a little bit of basics, you again, your players can be, Rayan can be put as defense. You can bring Dawood up. You can put Dawood back. You have that versatility in your team that I don't think any team really has and can match. That even if somebody goes in the penalty box, you could always substitute somebody, move somebody here, and it
Yep.
works seamlessly. So I think it's just really working to that strength and using that to your advantage. No other team can compete on that same level, and
Hmm.
just find a way to ground and pound and just really work your the opposition so hard and so to a point that they're just tired and they can't keep up anymore. So and Habibi, that being said, you're what 50 something, and you can still run. You can outrun anybody in this league too. So like just using your speed to your advantage. So
Well, you got to bring his age into it. Age is nothing but a number for him.
Yeah, but yes, it is 50 something. Yes.
Mashallah. We can only be so lucky to be in the same level of fitness as Habibi when, inshallah, we get to that age.
inshallah.
Good thing
Inshallah.
it's not going to be for a while, but anyways. So there's
Wow.
Haya next. I'm
Yeah,
teasing, man. I'm teasing.
that's okay. It's the hustle. I mean, these guys, these guys have it all. I mean, these guys have grit. They have heart. They have strong goaltending. They have forwards. They have defense. I know Ahsan is playing Haya in that first round, and we keep talking about this, and I keep hearing you guys on many podcasts. Lukman builds teams based on this, which is really built for the playoffs, and they've really found, just going off their last game in terms of where they came from, they showed that they want, they deserve to be there. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think Haya just needs to stay consistent. I don't know who's going to be missing during that game. Like I know my brother-in-law, he's might not be there, but that's
Hamudi.
Hamoud. Yeah, but they still have everybody else. They still have Bika.
Yeah.
They still have Sufyan. They still have Akib. They still have all those guys that can definitely do a lot damage with or without Hamoudi. So
And they have another key ingredient, which is Khalid Mufti, right? This guy is Mr. Playoffs. If you recall the last few playoffs, he's dominated, right? He just steps up to another level. This series will be decided by goalies between Mufti and Kawaja.
Now with Khalid Mufti, he's like Martin Brodeur. He just as the season wears on, he just gets better and better and better. So I'm definitely on the same boat as you. Got to watch out for Khalid Mufti. He'll be making some unorthodox saves that you're not going to expect him to be there for.
Yeah.
Now that being said, HAYA is actually undefeated, so unbeaten in their last 5 games.
wow, I didn't even
They've
notice that.
yeah,
Yeah.
so they've picked up. They beat Yakin. They had a tie. They beat Ikhlas 5-0. They had a tie, and then they had a tie before that.
It says
Before that,
unbeaten in 3.
So
But
correct,
they haven't lost the game in 5, is what you're saying.
correct. They have not lost a game in 5, right? And even before that, it was still just like 1-2 goal games. So they're very very competitive, and the higher hustle stands true. Lukman, like
yeah,
Dawood,
right.
drafts people he knows. He knows how they're going to play. He knows their mentality. And Lukman might, there might be a yelling match on their team. Something might happen. But guess what? It's very professional in the sense that it's just left as it is. They'll deal with it later. But let's get to the point at hand and let's finish this team. Let's play this team. Like they're very much focused on the goal of just getting a W out of it. So.
Yeah.
And even last game, their entire team showed up, right? And we're expecting, like every single playoff, we expect the entire uh, Malik clan to show up and cheer them on. So this season, this playoff should not be any different. So IHSAN, as much as they have their speed going for them, I think HAYA can make their life very difficult with the skill they have and their veteran leadership that they have. That hey, they won't waste their energy chasing
Yeah.
after a guy who's in the corner.
I mean, I've been saying this every week for the last I don't know how long, that you cannot discount Haya. You cannot discount the Lukman and company team, right? Because they will do anything to get into the playoffs, and once they're in, all bets are off. I mean, I think the fact that they have the LA Kings logo is very reminiscent of how the LA Kings are, right? They get into the playoffs, but then they're a very savvy playoff team, and they can get it done. So yeah, it'll be a
Yeah,
handful.
it'll definitely be a handful for SM, but I think for Haya, they have the personnel, they have a well-rounded team, they have the determination and the grit that gets them to the spot every single year. So
Hmm.
I think if they remain consistent with their game plan, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, of all the teams to play against, if you're on top, the last team you would want to play as a higher seed is Haya, because it won't feel like you are the higher team, because they'll
Yeah,
they'll
and
they'll
they'll
chop you
come
down.
out. And that's exactly right. They'll chop you down for sure.
Hmm.
They'll hustle and bustle, and they'll make sure they tire you out for sure.
All right, and the last team of the evening, since we're patiently waiting for this team to show up here.
Perfect name for it, Sabur.
I know, right?
And their GMs have been also patiently waiting for their team to score up on the scoreboard.
Their GMs have been patiently waiting for their goalies to show up. But that
um,
said, jokes aside, I mean, this team has I don't know. I've never been on a team where there's been so much lineup juggling and stuff, management wise. But mashallah, our GM core of Maz, Mo, Casentini, and Farouk Sani, they've done a really good job of doing some trades late in the season. We got Badger, although he didn't really play, but we had Badger, we had Farouk, we had Hasnain, we had Ahmed Khaled. These guys, they've changed the makeup of this team, and somehow, last game of the season, we just squeaked into the playoffs.
Literally.
Literally.
Literally, like I said, all the mathematical juggernauts were out there, and you're right, Arif. Like you were just sitting there. Oh, we made it. Oh, okay. I didn't know because it was
I'll
it was
admit,
it was
I'll admit, last week I even told some of my team, like, say, look, I'm as positive as a guy you'll find, but I think our season's done realistically.
You
I
were
was
already
actually getting
wiping
ready
down the
for golfing season.
motorcycle, and yeah.
No, I was ready for golfing season, and
All right, so
yeah,
that we ask you the question of what does Suburb need to do to make their season longer
we
and to
need to
extend it
go
past the
out and
next week.
have
Yeah,
fun because we're playing with the house money at this point. We have zero pressure on us. We're happy. This is our Eid.
and
We
the
just
and
made it to the
well,
playoffs.
it's funny you mentioned it because those are the teams you actually want to be careful of. Because
Yeah,
when you have a team with that mentality, and I wish all teams had that mentality, but
yeah,
sometimes with certain personalities you can't. But if you really do come with that mentality, kind of let's just play our game and just kind of do what we
yeah,
need to
yeah,
do, you'll be surprised on the outcome sometimes.
yeah, yeah. We had I think our key, like most teams, will be to make sure our key players are there. They actually show up. Because I think we had a few injuries and stuff. Some guys might be game time decision, but inshallah, if we have our main guys show up, um, we at least give ourselves a shot at this. So
You only need the grizzled veteran to show up. With Baksh, anything's possible, man. So, but yeah, I think Summer, being the underdogs, you're just having fun, like you said. As long as you can shelf Arif's, golfing attitude and then give him a stick instead of a golf club, I think you guys will be good. Line matching, I think personally, I think line matching is going to be a key.
mhm.
Really making sure you guys are staying on top of Hamdani, making sure that he doesn't have as much time and space. And Farouk Khan is the guy for that task, right? Again, he
Yeah,
you can't multiply him and have him cover Butter and Khaler and Hamdani, but I think Farouk Khan makes the right decisions most of the time, if not all the time. But he's going to be definitely the key to making it to the finals and
yeah,
giving his team a shot. So hopefully your scoring touch as a team can come back and
yeah.
just find a way to
There, there is another little element to this matchup, right? These two teams also made some major switches in personnel, right? We
yeah.
traded goalies and we traded our best defensemen to each other's teams. So those four players, you'd think that they would have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder to prove something, right? I know with Imran, he's probably better off playing against us because one, he knows all of us, and he's more relaxed against us, right? So he tends to play better against us, anyways. But on our side, having Farouk, he's as competitive as they get, right?
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
I can tell you he'll be fired up to play as well. So it's going to
and
be a good one.
and in the
Yeah, and
last in the last matchup, Ikhlas with versus Sabr, Imran Elvi did get a shutout. So that's
Yeah,
that's
he did.
another thing that he wants to keep going. He wants the shutout streak to keep going against you guys. So that's another fire for him.
Yeah, and you guys definitely have the offensive guys to get it in net. I mean, you have
Yeah.
Sandy, you have Casentini, Maz needs to show up, and Ahmed Khalid too. Like he's been showing up for the last couple of games, scoring goals at will when needed. So
Ahmed Khalid, he was a big contributor to last game.
I saw that. Yeah,
Right? He got the game winner. He got the game tire. He definitely needs to be there. But more importantly, not only does he have to show up, but he has to stay within the game and not get kicked out.
yeah.
Zoo's
A
gonna go
big
all over him.
Exactly. He's going to be the X factor. Zuhair Fancy is going to be the X factor in this game. Is how long and what is he going to say? What is he going to do to just make a nice little room in Ahmed Khalid's head and just kind of
Well,
he's just going to be there all day.
well, we're
Oh,
not
look at
here
this
to plant
comment.
any seeds. Yeah, we're not
Oh,
here to
look at this
plant.
comment here
Yeah,
by Zero Fancy.
Battle of
Battle
the
of the
Go-Karts.
Cokers. There you go. There's another
There's a
That's
lot,
just
story.
lot of stories, that intertwine. Whether it's personnel, whether it's family, whether it's trades,
Yeah.
whether it's anything. But at the end of the day, I think with that mentality, RF, like in terms of like just staying composed but having fun at the
Yeah.
same time, I think it
Yeah.
might be a good strategy. But I'm not on your team. I don't know what works or what doesn't work. But I know that your team has proven time and time again that when your backs are up against the wall, you kind of do what you need to do to kind of
Yeah.
bring out the best amongst each other, right? So
Like I said, we're playing with the house money at this point with all these betting ads that you see on TV. I'll use that analogy, if you will. And I hope that Adil Chauhan is able to make it because one, we haven't seen the brother in a while. We miss him as a friend. Um,
I guarantee he'll show up.
nice, mashallah. And it'll actually be interesting to see how a team that hasn't had Adil does right off the bat in the playoffs. I think he'll be do fine with Hamdani. But hey, we'll have the first row seat to watch some of that magic between them.
I'll be there. I'll be there. It's definitely going to be one of those matchups that I'm definitely looking forward to for sure.
Awesome, awesome.
Now, are teams playing 2 games tomorrow,
Yeah,
or
2 games.
2 games? So that's going to be also another one where not every player does that, or not every player has played 2 games in one day for a while. So
Yeah,
Easy
conditioning is
peasy.
also going to be. Not
Easy
everyone
peasy.
is in 50 and is in great shape like you. Okay,
50
some
plus.
of us 50 plus.
listen, we got Mo Casentini. He just finished like a 42-kilometer marathon, and then he's just gonna come play. He's like, yeah, this is a warm up. It's no big deal.
I can't even drive 42 kilometers without getting tired.
And remember, we have the Bucks factor too, right? All
That
those
is true.
TikTok gym videos. Bucks needs to step up now.
I just hope he has another stick because he forgot his and I have it in my car. So just hope he
Oh,
has
you
another
found it?
stick. Yeah, I found the stick, but
Oh, okay.
I have it and I'm in the East End. So good luck.
Yeah, he was kind of sad about that. Cool, cool. All right, boys. I think we'll just call it a show for today. I think we've covered everyone. Thank you, Habibi, once again for joining last minute. Really
No
appreciate it as
problem.
always. Maju,
No problem.
best of luck tomorrow's game.
But just if I might add just a little plug about the summer season.
Yeah,
If you guys haven't joined, there's still a few spots available. So yeah, just
Thank you.
get in those forums, get in those get your names in there just to make sure that we try to make sure we close off
15,
this season and then sorry what
15 spots left. 15, 1-5. So
whatever
it,
the number is. I mean, the bottom line is we will have 6 teams, inshallah, but
inshallah.
we just want to make sure that we get the word out.
Sounds good. All right, gentlemen. See you tomorrow then.
That's the
for sure.
plan.
Inshallah.
All right. Assalamu alaikum.
All right. Wa alaikum
Awesome.
assalam.